This was supposed to be a happy occasion post-game live recap of the Warriors versus the Suns because Steph Curry was back. But instead, we got one of the most putrid 3.5 quarter performances the Warriors have had this entire season. And they did turn it on at the end there to make it close. But man, this was supposed to be happy. What's going on?
I don't know, man. I was so confident they were going to beat the Suns, and it looked like I think when I said that there were some guys healthy, maybe Book wasn't healthy, but even then I was like, yeah, they're going to beat this team. And then you look at the team they put out tonight, where it's like no Book, no CP3, no DeAndre, and it's like, oh, this is going to be a cakewalk. And good old NBA, man. You think a team's so favored, and the other team just wins.
We'll talk about the whole oddness of this game, but Steph plays 31 minutes. He scores 24 points, but he is a team worst minus 19 in this game. I don't know if he played like he looked a little slow in the beginning, like he was getting his feet underneath him. His shot was a little off in the beginning. But in the fourth quarter, outside of, he had a lot of misses at the end there because he was just trying to force threes. But in like, the last half of the fourth quarter, I thought he looked pretty good. But at the same time, Steve Kerr was only going to play him 25 minutes and he played him 31. They were kind of chasing that W there at the end, which I didn't think it was going to be even as close as it was. If not for Andrew Wiggins getting some steals, it's probably a double-digit loss. But overall, what did you think about how Steph played?
I think that, you know, definitely towards the end, like the fourth quarter, even though he's missing shots, like he was hitting he was hitting some good ones, and that's what even made the lead even close than it should have been, really. But I feel like when a lot of star players come back from injury, like when, for example, like KD just went out, right? In like 6 weeks or 5 weeks, whenever KD comes back, I don't know how long it's going to take. I forget how long it's going to take. KD's going to come back and shoot like 10 shots in the first quarter, right? Like the offense runs through him. He is the best player on the team. I almost feel like Steph doesn't get that sometimes, or he does, and he just still like takes this slow approach back to the game. It's like, dude, we needed you to like be Steph Curry like in quarters 1 through 3, not quarters 4. And I feel like he's just a selfless player who wants to sit on the bench and let Poole start so it doesn't hurt his feelings. But it's like, dude, you're Steph Curry. You're one of the greatest players of all time. Like, it's not his fault, but it's like I feel like sometimes he just doesn't turn that switch on right away as much as I'd want him to right away.
Well, it goes back to what Kerr stresses with the passes and the offense moving and the basketball having energy and all that stuff. Because, Steph could come out there and start hucking, but then if he starts missing, then we start talking about, oh, why is he hunting threes for? Like, what is the deal here? He's not playing within himself. I understand what you're saying because we talked about this earlier in the season, which is there are some games where the Warriors need hot starts and Steph is not taking advantage of opportunities to go to the basket or to shoot. He's more looking to get guys involved. And sometimes, especially with, when you have Draymond and Kevon Looney on the court at the same time, you're really down to 3 guys. And so if you're constantly passing, then you're only down then you're down to 2 guys making shots. And so it's not always the best thing. But I hate to be the person to make such a big deal out of a game like this because the Warriors, I think, are still the 8th seed. Phoenix moves ahead of them because of this game to the 7th seed. Really, they have to get to 6. Whoever it's, whether it's Sacramento or the Clippers that they could possibly catch if they can, that's where they're searching. So, this game on the surface doesn't mean a whole lot, but like you said, the key to this whole game is Phoenix was basically saying, we are waving the white flag before this game even starts. Our best guys, our 3 best guys are not even going to play. And so here's your W. We're just going to get some guys some run, and some guys who don't normally play 35 to 40 minutes are going to play that. And they still they didn't win that game, which is that's like the most disheartening part, because if you're going to be fighting with Phoenix for a spot, this may be a game where they look back and go, "Oh, how did we lose this game?" But I did tell you the last time we talked, for whatever reason, Phoenix takes this matchup very personally. You saw Bridges play his rear end off and talk trash to Clay, and guys who normally don't even really get run, right? Like, uh other than Mikal Bridges, who was a plus 26, the next player, I'm sorry, he was a plus 13. The highest player in the plus minus was Bismack Biyombo, plus 21. He only played 17 minutes. He grabbed 8 rebounds. They didn't even have a point guard in the end there to try and stop the Warriors pressing and trapping and trying to get steals. You know, Okogie played 24 minutes. Ish Wainwright played 14 minutes. He had tattoos of what looks like his children on his shoulders. But yeah, Jock Landale plays 22 minutes, but those were good minutes when he was on the court because he was minus 13. And D Lee gets 30 minutes in his welcome back home ring night. Did you know this dude had 14 free throws?
I did.
How many shots do you think he took?
Less than 14.
8. He took 8 shots and had 14 free throws. Some of this was late when they're trapping and stuff, but just unbelievable the way this happened. They were 29 of 31 from the free throw line. Warriors are 21 of 27. But yeah, it's just going to be one of those games where, if they're in the 5-6 going into the playoffs without the home court advantage, this game is like one of those games. The Detroit game that we went to might be one of those games where they're like, how did we lose? Like, I don't get it. And then the other thing about this is, so you start this homestand 5-0, and Steph's coming back. Wiggins is coming back. Andre is coming back. They then lose the next 3 games with all 3 of those guys coming back in the last 2 games. Now, I know some of it is lineups and trying to, this is what they were doing earlier, right? They couldn't find that second unit and it was not playing well. And then they're moving guys around. They're putting Draymond with Jordan. They're doing the same thing in these last 2 games where they're trying to find that secondary rotation. But did you see the closing first quarter lineup? It was like Ty Jerome, Anthony Lamb, Jordan Poole, Wiggins was out, Draymond was out, Clay was out, Steph was out. And I'm just like, why do all 4 guys have to be out? Like, I thought we were trying to balance the court a little bit more. And that lineup gives up a little bit of a late run so that the Suns pull out. I think they ended the first quarter like up 6 or something. But it's like little stuff like that where, I'm sure Steve Kerr is trying things. And, if you ask him, can I take that back? Of course he would. But man, if I was just appalled at why the entire 7 through 11 was 7 through 12 was in the game at that time. I was like, why? We have all of these guys back. What's going on?
Yeah. And like, I think being in this, I think they were the 6th seed before this game started.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were. And I think Anthony Slater did an all 82 with Nate Duncan, and he made a point that I liked, which is like, if they are the 6th seed, like that's great. We're in the playoffs. Like, when's the last time the Warriors have lost the finals when Clay, Draymond, and Steph have been healthy? Like, it's before 2015, right? And with the Bucks year, Clay wasn't there. The year before that, the COVID year, Steph and Clay weren't there. Like, when they all 3 are healthy, they have won finals, or at least been in the finals since 2015. So I would always if they get to the playoffs, like, you bet on them. Like, I would bet on them. But at the same time, if they're the 6th seed, they're not getting home court advantage. Other teams have more of the momentum to close out the regular season. Like, if you're going into rounds 1 and 2 with 7-game series to start the gate, like, it's more likely that down the stretch, the more games you play in the playoffs, the likelier it is that one of your guys get injured or fatigue. And as much as we want to bet on the Warriors, if they're going into those 7 games series early in the playoffs because they didn't get a good seed, like it's going to be hard. If one of those three goes out, it's like, oh man, we're kind of cooked. Like we're not going to. So I think that it is like, yeah, get the 6 seed, avoid the play-in at all costs. But it's like, no, you guys need to like really get a top 4 seed here.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games where it's really hard to be anything but negative about the way that they played.
There's zero urgency. Until
Zero
the end.
urgency. I mean, they played good basketball for about 7 minutes there. Whenever it was that they made that run out of a 48-minute game. So, I was thinking as we're watching this game, we were trying to figure out what is it about the Warriors when they play at home, and why do they not give up the crazy high percentage 3-pointers that they do on the road? And today they did. They absolutely did give that up. And they played Detroit and they played Orlando, and the defense was not as good. Now the Orlando matchup, the Orlando was long, and Steve Kerr tries to go small, and then if they can't get any rebounds, and then you see what happened. But the eye test, and I hope somebody can actually look into this, is when the Warriors play small, they are all 5 guys are trying to defensive rebound because they don't have a big in there. And so what happens is you see Anthony Lamb, who's out on the perimeter, that ball goes up and he goes and crashes the board. Long rebound comes out. Whose man is wide open in the corner? Well, it's Anthony Lamb's guy because he was trying to get the rebound and it went over his head, and then he's got to get back to that corner. And I wonder if this has somewhat to do with rebounding, as we were trying to sort of figure out what the issue is, because that's what I saw tonight, which is they couldn't get any rebounds, and they I think they rebounded a little bit better, but when you look at the offensive boards, Phoenix got 20 offensive boards and 38 defensive rebounds. This math doesn't add up correctly. I'm trying to figure out how they did this. But so it says the number is 64, the number of rebounds that Phoenix got, and the Warriors got 53. But how many times did you see a shot go up and you see like 3 Warriors right in the middle, and the one Phoenix guy pulls the rebound up because he's just springier, or he times it better, or
he's like 5 inches taller.
Or he's 5 inches taller. Like they were not able to get rebounds when it mattered. And I think that sort of stopped their run there at the end, is because they just couldn't get the rebound. And then Mikal Bridges goes up like a pogo stick and then just shoots a little fadeaway. That was his move a couple different times today. But he is the kryptonite for what the Warriors like to do, because he shuts down so much. And then on the other side, he's so athletic and so long. You know who he reminds me of? You would not know who this player was. This player went to UNLV with Larry Johnson. You may know who Larry Johnson is. Grandmama. He played for the Knicks. He was a slam dunk champion. Stacey Augmon, they used to call him the Plastic Man because he was so long and he could defend around the perimeter. Mikal Bridges is a better version of Stacey Augmon, and he is just a killer for the Warriors every time. Guarding Steph, guarding Jordan. Though Jordan had a pretty good game today, but it was all in the second half. His first half was awful, but he picked it up in the second half, and you could see a little bit more from him as far as like that sneer and a little bit of the swag back in his game. Which, but then he also did a Jordan Poole with like 3 minutes left on a fast break. It was either him or Clay, and he comes down and he stops about the free throw line. And he slips and he falls and he loses the ball out of bounds. The Jordan Poole. But yeah, ultimately it's just one of those games where you look back and you go, if we don't get to the 4th seed and it's by 1 game, this one was kind of, they're going to be killing themselves over a game like this. Do you fear the upcoming road trip, which doesn't seem as tough because of who they play, but just for the mere fact that they play so poorly on the road?
I know, they give me like, it makes no sense, because after that Steph goes down and they just have a tough road trip. They have this home stretch. It's like, well, what have they done to prove to me that they can win any games on this home stretch? And then they go out, start 5-0, and then they lose the next 3. So like, what do I have to look forward for the road trip? But then they're gonna do something weird again. Like, I feel like this felt like a must-win game for me. Just like how I, lost the past 2 against bad teams, even though I liked Orlando. I said that on the podcast. I thought Orlando could actually do something. But losing to Detroit, and I was like, okay, this game feels more must win. And then you look at the product that the Suns put out on the court, it's like this game is even more must win, and they don't treat it as such. So I'm almost wondering, like I don't want to question the 4-time champs here, but they obviously know something, or they treat it differently than how I'm viewing it on the screen, because they did not bring urgency whatsoever tonight until the fourth quarter. So I'm like, it makes me a little less worried in that end, because I really do feel like they know, like they know something, but at the same time, it's like, you better beat the Spurs, right? Like, you really better beat the Spurs.
It's we had talked about all these guys coming back. No Moody tonight. Just got the DNP.
DMP, yeah, PBJ, DMP, yeah.
PBJ, DNP. Everybody is back with the exception of Kuminga and Wiseman. There's going to be a point where we stop saying, "Oh, we're going to get that full squad." Like, everyone's going to be back at some point, and they're not going to have that excuse of, "Oh, we got to fit these guys in and this and that." So I think this road trip to me is important. The importance of the road trip is, okay, so you have the Spurs, and the Spurs are 13-28. They're the 4th worst team in the NBA. Then you have Chicago. Now, I know Chicago's been playing a lot better of late. They have snuck into the top 10. They're the 10th best team in the East at 19-22. And the Washington Wizards, who are 17-24. So those 3 games, now this is before you get to the Celtics and the Cavs. Those 3 games, you really need to like put all of these pieces together and make them fit. And Andrew Wiggins doesn't have to play lights out defense in the first quarter of Friday's game like he did tonight, right? That was just him going like, I need to do something because we're just playing so poorly. But you would like to see a little bit more of that, what they did in the fourth quarter, to start out the game and to really like push these teams, because they play so lackadaisical like they did tonight. That's bad, even against bad teams like the Spurs and the Wizards and the Bulls. So I think this is probably one of Steve Kerr's toughest coaching jobs, though he would say that the 2020 season or 2019 season, what was the season where they were the 2nd worst team in the league?
I think that was the 2019 to 2020 season.
He said that was the hardest one, and he would take all of the championship expectations. But man, this one has got to be tough, because it's almost like, they always talk about how coaches, you only have like a certain amount of time with a team, because then they just kind of zone you out, because you've just been there so long and they heard all your stories. Not to say that that's happening here, but I do wonder if the ways that he's been able to motivate this team in the past just aren't working. Like, you hear him on the sideline, mic'd up and everything, and he's not like, he didn't really get fired up at all today. Like, you just mostly saw him sitting on the chair. So I wonder if he's just trying different ways, like different things to do to try and motivate these guys. It for whatever reason, it didn't work today, but yeah, at some point the team themselves got to look at the thing and go, we are exactly halfway into this season, and we are 20-21. And if we duplicate that in the second half, we probably missing the playoffs, or at least being stuck in a play-in game. But like, do you sense that Kerr is frustrated? He's happy with the team, and he just thinks that they kind of need to get help. Like I can't really tell what he is possibly feeling right now, because I don't know. I think he's kind of playing poker with his feelings or something.
Exactly. Like, you pan to him on the bench when they're down by like 25, and there's a dumb play that happens, and he's just kind of sitting there, like, no really expression. And I feel like
he would have got mad if it was Moody who made the mistake, though.
Yeah. Moody's getting DMPs for the rest of the year if he made something. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm with you in the sense of like I am interested. I have no idea because he just seems so poker face on the bench when these things are happening. And the only time he gets animated is like if Draymond gets animated and gets a tech, and then Steve Kerr will follow him with a tech. Like that's like the only time I really see him get like really into it
Yeah.
lately. Um, but I feel like okay. So an interesting thing I noticed from the game
Mm-hmm.
is that I think Jordan Poole had good a good game. I've kind of been on his case lately, but what still bothers me is just like the lack of defensive like effort. Like, and I just don't understand how he just like lives with himself, just like really not trying at all on defense. But I think I haven't gotten to rewatch the play because I feel like TNT sucked tonight at like replaying the plays I wanted to watch or like
Yeah,
the camera angles they had.
like when
Like that,
Draymond got called for that foul at the end, when he's like, it doesn't look like he touched the guy.
yeah, and then like the Iguodala, when they try to review it, like we got like no angles on that at all. But there was also the one where Iguodala threw the ball into the stands,
Yeah.
and I think it's because Jordan missed something. Like I think someone blew by Jordan. I
Oh, is
think
that what it was for?
I think something might have happened there. And what brings me to believe is that I was saying in the beginning of the year, like, Draymond was on Jordan's case last year for being a better defender and
Yeah.
giving more of an effort. But because he punched him, he doesn't feel like he's able to do that.
Yeah.
Iguodala might just do it. I think he's been doing it. I thought I saw him in the game just kind of doing it a lot because he threw that ball into the stands and went straight to like talking to Jordan. Like he wasn't even like talking to the refs or anything. That's what I thought I saw. So I would be interested to see that play again because I do feel like I've seen Iguodala get on Jordan's case a lot. And oh my God, like some of the times when Jordan makes this like fast break layup and then he just jogs back and the other team started like a 5-on-4. It's like, dude, you just made a shot. Like you got to get back on defense. I feel like I could put together like a 5-minute compilation of him doing that this year. So it's like, I hope Iguodala gets on that guy's case.
Yeah. And even worse, I think, is when he thinks that he was fouled but doesn't get the foul. It is really a 5-on-4 going back the other way because he's sitting there complaining and complaining, and yeah, just not getting back at all. I want to see, yeah, if you're right about that, then I'm sure they'll make a point of it in at least with Slater. They should probably do if next game's not until Friday. I think those guys are probably doing a plus minus either
Probably
tomorrow or
tomorrow.
Thursday. Yeah,
Yeah.
tomorrow or
It's
Thursday.
usually like a Wednesday thing. I'm
Um,
interested in what they say because I mean, I feel like we still can't wrap our head around this away home thing.
yeah, yeah. What'd you
Like
think about some of these guys who like Okogie like ripped Steph like 2 or 3
what was
times
I
tonight?
saying in the offseason, man? He's like he could have been the GP2 replacement for the Warriors.
My
I
goodness.
I mean, he's so limited. Like that's the only thing he could do is be an on-ball like pest. And he's
Yeah,
actually a really good like Steph gets annoyed with the people who push him to full court. Like Okogie has like the physical tools to like actually do it and be good at it. Like I think what started some of those turnovers was Okogie getting up at Steph in the midcourt and Poole in the midcourt, and then you get these breakaway like Mikal Bridges dunks for in like the second quarter when they went on that run, and that's like he's just a really good ball stopper and really good pest, and I would have liked him on the team, but I
he
don't know how
only
it
he
went
only
here.
got credit for one, but I feel like he bothered
He was
Steph
involved in so
a lot.
many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know Andrew Wiggins got 6 steals? That's
Wow.
funny. That's
I
pretty
liked him
funny.
fighting for a lot of those offensive rebounds to keep the possession alive at the end. But it's like it just felt like during the game the Warriors weren't totally punishing the Suns for being big and them going small, and it was just like they weren't totally like attacking the center or something. Like they weren't using the advantages of going small against a big team where it's like, okay, let's get Jock Landau on the perimeter. It's like, no, we'll just play right into it. And I've noticed that like in the beginning when it was like, oh, the Suns have 10 free throws and the Warriors have none, it's like you could look at the foul discrepancy, but it's like the Warriors don't really like challenging them inside. They're taking a lot of threes. What was it against the Magic? Almost another record setting 3-point attempt night. It's like they're not really attacking the paint. And I think it's because probably the two guys on the team that take the most paint shots when they're in the game are Kuminga and Wiseman, and they're both not playing right now. But it didn't seem like there was this issue last year, and they have basically the same cast minus GP2, who really would only take dunks, and it's not like he got fouled really that much either. So I'm just wondering, like, where's the paint or the attacking the paint gone for them?
It's a great point, and the stats, at least in this game, actually show what you're saying. So the Warriors were 18 of 48 from 3, so shooting 38%. On twos, they were 19 of 48. So even the twos are not, they don't seem to be the easiest twos,
But
right?
I almost want to see like the rim, like shot. I actually, I'm sure I could find this now. I got a hold of the cleaning the glass advanced analytic metric stuff that I need to actually like look into because I'm paying for it. But they're like, I want to see the shots they take like at the rim. Like, they could take 1 foot inside of the 3-point line and that counts as a two, right? Like those, I want to see more shots that would probably draw more fouls. How many of those do they take a game compared to the other teams is what I'd be interested in.
You know what it is also, and Clay started to attack the basket late in the game, but Clay takes hard threes, and he was 6 of 14 today, so that's 43%. That's great. That's where he is as a historic shooter. But on the twos, he is 4 of 10. So it's like some of them are hard twos, and some of them are just they can't get. They had 2 shot clock expirations during this game, which is pathetic. Like, shouldn't have any. But it seems like the ball ends up with Clay, with less than 2 or 3 seconds left in the shot clock, and it's a hard two or a hard three. And so I'm very, I'd love to see the shot charts for the last 3 games to see the difference in the previous 5. Now, some of that is just going to be the matchups and such. Like we said, the Magic are not a fantastic matchup for them just because they're so big. But come on, Detroit. Like, Detroit has the
Yeah.
2 bigs as well, but those 2 bigs are good defensively, and the only other thing they do is catch lobs. Though Stewart did hit a couple threes, he can extend out, but you're kind of fine with him taking those shots.
You are, yeah.
But yeah, and then today, like, this was this was Mikal Bridges, uh, Dwayne Washington Jr. hit 5 of 9 from 3, and Damian Lee, like, I guess Saric, Saric had a pretty good game too. But just these guys are, Dwayne Washington Jr. Is he the 7th or 8th guy, in the rotation? Damian Lee is probably the 7th or 8th guy. Saric is he's
When everyone's
coming off
healthy,
the bench.
these guys are back of the bench guys when everyone's healthy.
Torrey
Like
Craig,
even Damian Lee, not
yeah.
back of the bench, totally back of the bench, but maybe like a 9 or an 8-9 guy. I think I cursed this game for us because we just did a pod on Sunday and we were talking about trades and the Phoenix Suns got mentioned and I was kind of going through their struggles on what I thought was their struggles and one of my main ones was like they have this guy named Dwayne Washington Jr. as their like secondary primary shot creator and I was like I have no idea who that guy is. Like that's a problem for them because I pretty much know who everyone is in the league. That was disrespectful to him. I apologize because he cooked us in the beginning there.
That was pretty disrespectful.
That was my fault. But okay, wait, a few couple more things that I noticed in the
Uh-huh.
game. I noticed that Clay was going, but it felt like he was reverting back to some of the old habits, especially like when you go to that second Suns game where I think he gets ejected. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the one where he got ejected. It kind of felt like a similar shot selection, and I don't totally blame him this game because this was a game where Steph was being passive in the beginning, Poole was being passive in the beginning. We haven't seen Wiggins go to any shot creation since he's come back, and it'll probably take time. But we remember his little push shot floaters, his fadeaway middies that he would take. He hasn't taken any of those, so it kind of does fall to Clay to like if something's not going, like he's kind of got to chuck. And I think when they started finding stuff, when they started finding shots towards the end of the game, he was still doing it, and I was like, maybe you need to back off from doing it here, but there was just too many possessions where like when Draymond shoots, it's almost never like I don't know, in rhythm or a part of the plan. Like he is the last option because they could
Mhm.
not find anything. And I just felt like there was almost too many times where he was shooting a 3 or he was shooting or he was kicking it to someone for a last shot. Like they just weren't able to find offense that much early in the game. But I just hope Clay does not have to, or I hope Clay doesn't, I guess, go back to a lot of those dumb leaning shots I felt like he was taking because he was on a good stretch there of the catch and shoot stuff and finding his offense again.
I think some of it is he starts hot and he still feels hot,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then he starts looking for it a little bit, which, if he's going to shoot 6 of 14, you're pretty okay
That
with
was from
that.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think there was a point in the game where he was like 6 for 18.
Mhm.
And I think that might have been in the second or the third quarter, but
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
like, man, you guys really
he didn't
shot a
shoot
lot of
great.
shots.
He didn't shoot great from the field. He actually shot worse from the field than he
Then from
shot
3.
from three tonight.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I guess the games this weekend. They got 2 games this weekend. I'm happy again that it's on a Sunday because the Niners play on Saturday. Niners against the Seattle Seahawks. Rod and I will be back live after that game on Saturday. And then so you get a nice little Warriors on Friday, Niners on Saturday, and then the Warriors again on Sunday. And yeah, so it should be a pretty fun weekend. Now, it'd be great to get 3 W's. I don't know. I don't know how confident I am for the Warriors to beat 2 or 1 bad team and 1 average team on the road. I would love to see them sort of figure it out and get it back, though. It's kind of crazy how Jekyll and Hyde they are. So hopeful there.
Yeah.
But before we get out of here, I wanted to mention one thing, something that is near and dear to our heart. One Otto Porter. This man gave his heart, soul, and body to the Warriors in the postseason last year, has not been right all season long, and is now out for the rest of this season. At least he got paid, but I'm sure he wanted to get paid and be a contributor to earn his money. But he just has not been able to be healthy this year. And I fully believe that it was because of that long playoff for him. And, he had the foot thing and he would have to come out, and then we didn't know if he was going to play the next game. So I think that, I think some of it is just he played his butt off in those playoffs last year and paid the price for it in this regular season.
Banners last forever, man. I when I saw that first, like I wanted to quote tweet it and say something. And I wanted, like, I was gonna start, like, I love Otto Porter Jr. I hope, like, he makes a full recovery and he's back to his old self. Because I thought the Raptors, that was actually a good signing for them. But at the same time, I wanted to say, like, the Warriors dodged that, you know, like, and us Warriors fans are like, you didn't get Otto, you didn't get GP2, and then it's just like, how many combined games have both of them played this year?
And who
10
else we didn't get was the guy who shot 14 free
Damian.
throws today.
That was the one no one wanted to bring back too.
They kept showing his wife and his mom with the baby.
Not that wasn't his mom, like his mother-in-law.
Or her mom. And then they showed Steph's wife sitting somewhere else. I was wondering, how come they didn't all sit together?
Maybe they just get too passionate. I wouldn't. That would
because
make
they got
sense
to
to
root
me.
again. They got to root.
Yeah, they got to
for the
root
other-
again.
and then Mama Curry's in the middle, stuck in the middle.
Yeah. Oh, I would like to point out that I think our last podcast, I was like pretty optimistic in how the direction of the season was going, and I almost fell into like this little trance of like, and I watched every game, and like we talked about most of the games, but I almost was like a box score watcher in the sense of like, did we get the win or the loss? Like I didn't really put together like, I think the last podcast I was like, oh, I think they're gonna go on this. They're probably going to close out the road trip with 3 W's. Like, what has told you otherwise? Well, what should have told me otherwise is that they went into double OT against the Hawks.
Yeah.
They barely scored out against the Hornets. Like, all those games were close, really, besides Memphis.
Portland, they should have lost the Portland game. Yeah, this was what I was saying. Is like the homestand is great to get those W's, but they were lucky in some cases to get those W's. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I was just like, saw the win or the loss. Like, whoa, they keep winning. So what is telling you they're not going to win? And I should have just been like, well, those have been tough wins, and your vets are going to need to rest at some point. And I think that was also something for Clay sitting out against the Magic.
And then he played the most minutes today. He played the most minutes out of everybody.
Yeah, they really need a cushion. They hurt themselves, man. They need this cushion so the vets don't have to play their like 30 minutes plus a game.
You know what? You know what it is that they suck us in when they beat the crap out of Boston and in Memphis, and we're like, oh, they can turn it on, but then they just don't get as fired up for games like this. And it's easy for me to say watching on TV, but they always say, it's really hard to get up for games sometimes. And, when you're a champion and then you got to go play, in San Antonio, though that game should be pretty special because there's going to be so many people there. But just your random game, like how do you get excited for that when you were just in the NBA finals and that's exciting. And then you go, oh yeah, I'm gonna go play in Washington D.C. Yeah, I don't know how do I, how do I get up for that one? So it's got to be hard. It's got to be a mental thing. But man, hopefully they can turn it on because these last 3 games have been pretty pathetic basketball, and including today. They made it close, but for 41 minutes of that game, that was some of the worst basketball they played all year. They turned it on, and I'm just glad Steph didn't get hurt. I hope Clay, they pushed those guys to try and win this game, and so they put a little bit of minutes on them. So, wouldn't mind getting to see a little Moses Moody action out there, but they did go DiVincenzo late. I think they pulled out Wiggins for a possession or something, and then they went DiVincenzo. But otherwise, it was fast 5 pretty much the whole time. And then they did the lineup with no Draymond and Iguodala in the Draymond spot, and then that's when he got kicked out.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering though when Kuminga comes back, like how are they going to fit him into this rotation? Because I looked at the Kuminga stint and was like, this guy's a must play. Like he should be the second guy off the bench. And you look at the skill set he provides, like really only if you want to replace direct skill set with direct skill sets, like Iguodala, like you hit him taking out Lamb, like takes out a 3-point shooter that they could stretch the floor with. It's like he's not a direct. You can't like just give him Lamb's minutes because Lamb provides something else that he doesn't, and vice versa. So
Yes.
I'm wondering how they're going to fit him in, and how they're going to shuffle this.
All right. Well, we will probably be back next week. I'm thinking Thursday or Friday because the Warriors have 4:30 p.m. Pacific games for us on Thursday and Friday, and those are the 2 biggies on the road trip, Boston and Cleveland. So we'll figure out when we're coming back on one of those games. But you know what? I hopefully we can get more people in doing sort of recaps after these live games. Hopefully we can get more people hanging out with us live because Sam and Andy, the Lightyear show. You know what they do for best caller who jumps on to hang out and ask a question and joins them? You know what they give them?
Is it the Pacific Catch stuff?
Pacific Catch gift card. Oh man, I almost wanted to join their show just to get the gift card and go to Pacific
I don't know if I've ever been.
It's fun. It's a fun little spot to hang out for dinner. Maybe if you guys come down, we'll go one of these days. All right. Thanks to everyone who was checking us out live. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we'll be back next week. We recorded a little early this week because we wanted to get Steph's game, so that was probably the right call. But we'll let folks know, and even on the other podcasts, if you listen to our other shows, we'll let you know when we're planning on coming back. So for Bri, I am Double G. See you when we see you. Peace out.